Welcome to the Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show. Jeff D. Veronica and Steve Bradley, our 20th season doing the show. My 20th. Steve, you're in for the last few and been doing a tremendous job, and appreciate all the legwork, Steve, you did in getting us ready for this terrific interview with the Executive Director of the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, Mr. Robert Zayas, in his 11th year as Executive Director. And Robert, where has the time gone? It feels like you just were a newbie recently.
I agree. I don't know where it's flown by, but it certainly has went by very quickly. Over a decade has passed since I started my tenure here in New York, and it's been a wild but very fun ride.
Well, we're not going to sing, Steve, but you have a special announcement about the Public High School Athletic Association.
Yeah, we should wish Dr. Zayas a happy birthday, not just for him, but the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, Jeff, turns 100 this year. Actually, the first state championship was outdoor track held at Union College in May of 1923. The organization's grown now, Jeff, 787 member schools, 11 sections. Dr. Zayas, happy birthday to NYSPHSAA. I'm learning to say that. I haven't quite figured out the acronym yet, but happy birthday to NYSPHSAA. And what do you have planned to celebrate?
Yeah, I mean, it's our centennial celebration. So that's exciting to be able to celebrate 100 years of the State High School Athletic Association's history. We've been doing quite a bit of research, and it's interesting that some of the topics that we continue to debate and discuss today were being discussed and debated 100 years ago. For example, our transfer rule, one of the 7 core principles of the association when it started in 1923 was to discuss transfer limits. And it's amazing that we're still discussing the transfer rule a century later. But later this summer, we will be hosting a centennial celebration in conjunction with our central committee meeting in late July. We're bringing an awful lot of attention through our state championships and championship programs on our Twitter feed, just about the centennial and what it means to turn 100 and the great history of this association.
Well, I've only been covering Section 5 sports for about 28 years. So, and if you go back to college, and maybe I got to 30, but Steve, we had some great topics. We want to run through some stuff with Dr. Zayas here. Let's start with, which is always central to sports, sportsmanship. And I'm a big believer in that. What happens on our televisions ends up happening in our gymnasiums and on our fields of play. And I'm hoping that these kids and their parents and their coaches understand that these NBA idiots who are, and even the NFL guys last night, we're taping this on after Super Bowl, profanity should not be part of certainly interscholastic athletics, but post-game interviews, like, clean it up. It's disgusting, in my opinion, that these professional athletes can't, with a camera on them, not use profanity. But Steve, you wanted to talk sportsmanship, so go ahead. I'll let you have the first question.
Yeah, Dr. Zayas, I know it's a huge initiative, and it's kind of crosses over several ways. Not just the athletes, but also coaches, administrators, spectators, officials. What's being done right now to keep that positive sportsmanship message flowing to improve behavior?
Well, I think one of the problems that we have in this day and age with social media being what it is we only hear about the negative sportsmanship, right? I mean, we only get the opportunity to witness when things go wrong or they're a poor display of sportsmanship. Very seldom do we ever get the opportunity to see the positive sportsmanship. But that goes back to the old saying that the media, no offense to the media, but the media reports on planes that crash. They don't report on planes that land. So, but I think as an association, we continue to really promote the importance of sportsmanship. We bring attention to this through our sportsmanship committee that we have. Each section has representation on our sportsmanship committee. We do have a program that we refer to as the ejection-free program. So when a school goes the entire season without having an ejection of their student athlete or a disqualification of a student athlete, we bring attention to that. So I think we continue to really emphasize the importance of sportsmanship, because that ties in not only to the student athletes' participation, but we see a huge link or correlation to poor sportsmanship and the number of individuals that actually have a desire to officiate and umpire contests and games.
And that ties into our next topic. But there's something I want to follow up. And Steve came up with this. And is this something that's been talked about? A code of conduct signed by spectators? Is that a feasible thing to consider?
not so much a code of conduct, but what we did recently implement as an association was an expectation statement that would be read before all games and would be included in our handbook. So it's an expectation for what fans and spectators are going to be expected to do when they attend a high school or interscholastic event. The other thing that we are discussing and will be voted upon in May is a sportsmanship regulation for spectators and fans. Right now, we have a sportsmanship regulation for coaches and student athletes that if they are abusive or have intimidating or harassment towards an official or towards someone else, that there's certain consequences for that behavior. But that's for coaches and players, nothing for spectators. So as an association, we've been discussing this for almost a year. And in May, we will have our executive committee vote on a sportsmanship regulation specifically focused upon spectators, that if a spectator is asked to leave a game, that they're disqualified from attending the next contest, and they would have to go through an online program in order to basically be allowed and permitted back into their next high school game.
Bravo.
I think that's
Bravo.
a great idea. I guess just the one maybe follow up to that is, how do you see that being administered? Who would be able to enforce that?
And
just
can you hire some
because-
additional security?
Right
You know,
there,
that-
that's the issue that we've experienced. As I said, we've been discussing this for a year, and that's the reason why. That's been the one challenge that we've had is if somebody's going to a game and they're acting disruptive at a home contest, and now the next game is an away contest, who enforces that penalty? Because if I'm the away or the visiting athletic director, I'm hosting a school, I don't necessarily want to be responsible for another school's disqualification of one of their parents. So that's been the challenge that we've been discussing. But Long Island has had this policies in Section 8 and 11 for a number of years, and they've managed to figure it out. So that's what we were told by our representatives from Suffolk and Nassau County recently at a meeting was they've had the policy, and it seems to work really well as far as enforcing the disqualification for a spectator when they come to the next contest.
Well, that goes hand in hand with our next topic, which is officiating. And in addition, I joked about security, but I can tell you from the school district where I work, I know that staffing in any walk of life is still an issue for a lot of people. And certainly an official shortage is not new news. This is a recurring, it's been happening for the last probably maybe 10 years, 5 to 10 years. Certainly since the pandemic, I think it's been like red alert here. We need people. And, no one's getting any younger. And that's just not the way it works. This isn't Benjamin Button. So how dire is it, the need for officials, Dr. Zayas, and what's being done to try to amp this up to get more people involved? Because no one wants to go out and get yelled at by coaches or parents and make, peanuts, or even just, not a good wage.
It was a crisis 3 or 4 years ago. It's beyond crisis situation right now. And it's not specific to one sport. It's across the board in all sports. We are in dire need of individuals that are interested in officiating. And when someone goes to a game and decides that it's their right and their privilege in some cases to go ahead and berate somebody that's out there officiating, that only makes our recruitment and retention efforts that much more difficult. And, I've firmly believed that coaches coach, players play, and spectators are there to support their children and the players on the court, and officials officiate. But if somebody thinks that they know more about the game and have a better vantage point from way up in the last row of the bleachers, then we want to talk to those individuals because they obviously have an expertise in the game that nobody else in the gym does. So I think it's something that we need to do a better job of modeling. Again, that sportsmanship that we just referenced a few moments ago, modeling that for the student athletes, because quite honestly, it's not fun for the kids to play either when somebody's berating the official nonstop. Are officials going to make mistakes? Most certainly. I mean, we saw the Super Bowl, and hey, that was a tough call on a very critical point in the game, but was the right call made? Hey, from the official's perspective at that particular time, yeah, it was. Now they have the gratuity of having replay, but again, pass interference isn't reviewable. Our officials don't have the gratuity of replay, nor are they going to be able to have the gratuity of that because we don't have the same camera equipment that NBA and Division I and Division II basketball have. But our officials are out there giving back to their community, giving back to the sport that they love, and giving back to the kids. We need to make sure that we're treating them with a level of respect that they deserve. And One of the other things that we have noticed is that in some cases, it's very difficult to be trained and certified as an official. It takes an extended period of time. So if either of you gentlemen wanted to come out and officiate in some sports, it might take a year for you to be trained in order to be able to just officiate a high school game. Well, what we're doing is we're working with an online company called Ref Preps. And right now we're just piloting it in the sport of baseball. But we're going to condense the amount of time that it takes to be certified just at the modified level. So if either of you wanted to officiate or umpire baseball this upcoming spring, we could get you certified, trained, and fingerprinted in less than a week, and you could be officiating modified baseball games.
I think I feel like he's inviting us, Steve. I really do.
What probably neither of you know is I used to officiate baseball before my job became that where I couldn't do it. And there was a pecking order. You had to do 5 or 6 classes, and then JV for 2 years to get recommended for varsity, and then you still had to get high enough ratings and everything to. So it was a three-year process for the best officials to get to varsity. It sounds like right now that from 0 to 60 in a week, that just underlines the crisis of it. And Dr. Zayas, I know some of the benefits of being an official are there's flexibility. It's a wage on the side. You got a camaraderie. You're almost like a third team on the field or on the ice or on the court, wherever you are. What are some of the selling points that you would make to somebody who's saying, I'm thinking about being an official, but I'm not sure if it's right for me?
Well, before I answer that question, I do want to make sure that the program that we're piloting right now is just to get people in the door at the modified level. So they would still have to go through other additional training and certification to be able to officiate at junior varsity or varsity. Right now, we're just hoping to get people in the door. And what we feel like once we can get them to be able to start officiating at the modified level, then we'll have them interested, we'll have them excited, and then we can slowly build them up into the junior varsity or varsity level. But if I was talking to somebody, I was just talking to my wife had an event a couple of nights ago. She's a real estate agent here in the community. So I went with her, and I actually found myself trying to recruit somebody to start umpiring softball. And I told her it's an opportunity. She said, I've always thought about it, but almost verbatim the same question. Why should I do it? Well, because it gives you an opportunity to give back to this sport that you benefited from for so many years. And like you said, it's also a little bit of income for some individuals, not a lot of income, but it does give you the opportunity to be active and to be part of a sport that you no longer have the ability to play. None of us have the ability to continue playing the sports that we grew up playing, but we can certainly still be involved and we can still be a critical part of it by officiating.
That's right. Drop a few LBs running up and down the court. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So, all right, let's take a quick break. Come back. We have some real positive stuff to talk about in regard to girls' sports. So I don't want everyone to think that we're just here hitting on the negative here, but that's the reality of it. And that stuff's really important. But so is the next segment. We're going to talk about girls wrestling and so much more right here on the Connors and Ferris High School. We got cheerleading. What else, Steven? What was your third topic?
There's flag football participation. There's a lot of things. It's growing, and who knows? There may be things we don't know about.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Come back more with Dr. Robert Zayas from the New York State Public High School Athletic Association right here on the Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show.
Looking for a used truck? Can you find one out of 350? At BobJohnsonAutoGroup.com, you'll find one. Love SUVs? 800 are waiting for you to take one home at BobJohnsonAutoGroup.com. Add 350 pre-owned sedans, and you've got a total of 1,500 used vehicles only at BobJohnsonAutoGroup.com.
Bob Johnson's got your ride. Bob Johnson.
While we celebrate 140 years of serving our community, the kind of delicious joy that lasts a lifetime, we look forward to serving you for 140 more. With hardworking, wholehearted, passionate people who will help shape new memories for generations to come.
Have you visited Roberts Wesleyan University yet? The time is now to choose your own time to get a customized visit. You'll get a feel for the university, meet a current student over lunch, tour the campus, and more. You can set up a visit anytime and any day that works for you. Schedule your visit at roberts.edu/visit. At Roberts Wesleyan University, we want to make your visit twice as rewarding. Be one of the first 500 students to visit campus and receive a $100 Amazon gift card. To qualify, the traditional undergraduate student must attend an on-campus admissions event or personalize a visit to campus with at least 3 activities. 1 gift card per student. For more information, visit roberts.edu/visit.
You don't choose to get hurt at work, but you can choose the workers' comp attorneys at Connors and Ferris to fight for your money and medical benefits you deserve.
With over 20 years of industry experience, we will give your case our undivided attention so that you and your family can focus on your recovery.
So call Connors and Ferris, the workers' comp attorneys dedicated to fighting for injured workers' rights.
Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys.
The best 3 things here at McQuaid are definitely the sports, the brotherhood, and the service to community. I think that's a really big, important thing that McQuaid stresses, which is part of creating a better and great man. You definitely feel a connection with your fellow students here. It's being all guy school. You're able to relate to each other on a personal level, and everyone's very welcoming here with open arms and willing to be your friend.
Hi, this is Jeff DeVeronica. I'd like to tell you about my friends from Doyle Security. We lost my father-in-law a few years ago, and that meant my mother-in-law was going to be alone in her house. One of my first calls was to Doyle. Doyle has an award-winning burglary detection system, and that gave her peace of mind again. It gave her comfort. These days, you can't put a price tag on that. Whether it's for your family or yourself, at any stage of your life, Doyle is there for you. For seniors, Doyle offers a personally enabled GPS emergency response system. They have a full array of smart systems, including fire and carbon monoxide detection, security cameras, and more for your home or business. More than 35,000 families and businesses rely on Doyle every day and every night. Family owned and operated for more than 100 years, you don't have that kind of staying power unless you're doing something right. To learn more, call 1-866-GO-DOYLE or visit godoyle.com.
Sweet baby. Oh, baby.
Local McDonald's operators care about our local schools, teams, and student athletes. That's why they support the return of high school athletics in the Rochester area and around the state. See you before or after the big game at McDonald's. Welcome back, Section 5. Game on!
Protecting your home's worth pays off when you trust the experienced team at American Custom. We've all seen our homes go up in value, making home improvements a wise choice. If you think your home is worth a lot now, just wait until our team is done with it. Call American today.
Welcome back to the Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show. Jeff DeVeronica and Steve Bradley. If you're from elsewhere in the state, we are based in Rochester. We are former Democrat and Chronicle employees here, the largest newspaper in Rochester. And we work elsewhere now, but we still enjoy covering Section 5 sports. And glad to have in the executive director of the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, Dr. Robert Zayas. And Steve, some really cool stuff going on with girls sports, isn't it?
There is. It seems like increasing participation is a goal statewide, nationwide in high school athletics. And 3 sports that have really kind of taken a foothold in New York State in the last couple of years: flag football, wrestling, and game day cheer. And Dr. Zayas, those are positive examples of increasing participation. And just your take on what those sports have brought in terms of adding to the mix for potential high school athletes.
Yeah, we just launched our 5-year strategic plan. And one of the 4 priorities of our strategic plan is to increase participation. We know when kids get involved in high school sports, they benefit in tremendous ways. They get better grades. They attend school at a greater rate. They have less discipline referrals. They attend college at a greater rate compared to their non-participating classmates. So anything we can do to find a way to get kids more engaged in their school community, that's certainly a priority of the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. So we have 3 new sports that we're unveiling and really working on. As you just mentioned, Game Day Cheer. It's a different type of cheerleading compared to competitive cheerleading. It resembles that of what you would see cheerleaders doing on the sideline of a football game or at a basketball game. And there's a competition around that type of cheerleading. Really exciting. A lot of states are doing it, and we're slowly getting involved with Game Day Cheer. The other 2 sports, girls flag football. Last year we started it as a pilot program, and we were hoping to just have 25 teams involved. We have 50 teams statewide that got involved in girls flag, and we're anticipating about 140 to 150 teams this spring. And we just approved it on February 1st to have the first girls flag football state championship in the spring of 2024. So that's exciting to see.
Irondequoit High School, we had one of those teams. Irondequoit High School had one of the teams last year.
It's probably one of the fastest growing sports in the country. And if you watch the Super Bowl, the amount of emphasis on flag from the NFL and the support that they're providing is phenomenal. And then the last sport that we're working on right now is girls wrestling. We had over 1,000 girls become weight certified for the sport of wrestling this year, which is an all-time high. And what we found is that there's a lot of girls that are interested in wrestling, but maybe there's some hesitation about wanting to wrestle against boys. So that's the reason why we've seen really girls wrestling become so much more popular, because we're giving them the opportunity to just wrestle against other girls. We hosted the first all-girls invitational on January 27th, I believe, at the OCC in Syracuse. It was incredible. I mean, we had over 200 girls wrestling in an all-girls invitational, and a few parents that I spoke to, it was just great to see. One father said, when the wrestling season started, my daughter's confidence level was about a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10. He said, at the end of the wrestling season, we're coming up upon the end, he said her confidence level is an 8. And that's exactly what we want to be doing as a state high school athletic association, is giving participation opportunities to kids, but helping them learn more about themselves, about their school, about participation, responsibility, respect, determination, commitment, sacrifice, all those wonderful things that kids get when they participate in high school sports.
Jeff, I wanted to go just to follow up on the wrestling, because everything I've heard about that event was so special. Actually, one of the wrestlers is from one of the districts that I work in, finished first place in her weight class. And the question when something good happens, Dr. Zayas, is what's next? And what's the path for girls wrestling? And is there a pathway to having that be an official sport with its own state championships rather than being an invitational?
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. And I see that becoming reality in the next 2 to 3 years. We have a very defined championship philosophy because we get questions all the time. I have a group of about 1,500 kids in Westchester that want ultimate frisbee to become a sport. And then there's a group in Long Island that want ping pong to become a sport. And there's BMX bike riders and skateboarders and snowboarders that all want their sports to be recognized by our association. So we have a philosophy that says when 4 sections have 4 schools participating in each one of those respective sections, and the sections recognizing it, then we characterize that as an emerging sport. And then when we have 6 sections with at least 4 schools participating, then that sport has reached championship status. So we're on the verge of having girls wrestling reach that championship status. Right now, it's just characterized or defined as an emerging sport, but I'm really hopeful and optimistic that we'll see that become a championship sport in the next 2 to 3 years, and then just continue to build upon the momentum that we have.
All right, let's hopscotch a little bit here, Steve. We got a couple more topics we want to hit on. Boys volleyball, potential move to the spring. That's a discussion item. How much could that become a reality? What are the chances of that?
Before we have any boys volleyball coaches who are watching this go into panic mode, there is very little support from the membership to move boys volleyball from the fall to the spring. That was an idea brought by one of our sections as an idea, and our boys volleyball committee discussed it without a lot of support.
Okay.
And one thing that Dr. Zayas said you hear big in college is the NIL, name, likeness, and image, name, image, likeness. It's an emerging topic in the Rochester area. We just had a pair of young ladies from one of our districts sign an agreement. this is another emerging thing that's new territory, and something that I'm sure that the organization and the association has to follow very closely. What's this like for you?
Well, we were the first state in the country to change our amateur rule in October of 2021 to go ahead and allow students to benefit from their name, image, and likeness. So when the NCAA announced in July of 2021 that they were basically doing away with their NIL rules and regulations, and students at the collegiate level could benefit and monetize from who they are, we took immediate action, and we were the first state in the country to go ahead and allow students to do the same thing at the high school level. We basically say that a student can benefit from their name, image, and likeness as long as they have no affiliation to their school. So if a student is participating in the sport of basketball and wants to enter into an NIL deal, they have the ability to do that, but nothing can be affiliated to their school. So they can't appear in advertisements or commercials wearing their school uniform or associated with their school logo, or having the marquee of their schools behind them, or in their school gym. So we really feel that as an association, how can we possibly limit a student's ability to monetize as long as there's no affiliation to the school? And we've seen about 25 states throughout the country follow our lead and allow their students to benefit in the same manner or in a similar manner to what we're permitting here in New York.
Cool stuff for sure. And one other thing we want to touch on before we move over to mergers, Steve. We appreciate your time, Dr. Zayas. We know you're a busy guy.
Of course.
Cell phones used, I'm assuming, Steve, this means as for GPS purposes on the golf course.
Is distance measuring devices.
Okay. That's a thing now. Is that going to happen, or it's being decision?
Yeah, that's being discussed right now. We're looking to have action potentially taken on that in May or July. What we found is a lot of kids don't have the means to purchase a GPS or measuring device for the sport of golf, but their cell phone could do the same exact thing for them. So they would only be able to use that cell phone for a measuring device. They wouldn't be allowed to communicate with their parents who are following around the course or communicate with a coach. It would just solely be used as a measuring device, and that's continuing to be discussed as an association. But I think it's important that we continue to look for ways that we make sure that we're creating a fair and equitable playing field, that the students that can afford the $300 or $400 device are the ones that are able to use it. The majority of our kids have cell phones, and the question has come up, why can't they use that as a measuring device?
And Jeff, you mentioned mergers, and it's such a, Kathy Hoyt in an interview with the Democrat and Chronicle said that she used to get about 50 a year. She's the executive director for Section 5, and now it seems like it's just happening all the time. There's an interesting discussion taking place in one of the most historic football rivalries in the state. The communities of Caledonia, Mumford, Iron Virgin, and Leroy are just looking at what a merger would look like. And it just seems, Dr. Zayas, that with participation as a goal, there's a lot of positive examples of these mergers happening so that participation can grow, and it not necessarily to create super teams. And how much of mergers comes across your desk, and what is the association's basic philosophy on mergers and that kind of delicate balance between participation and superpowers?
You guys are hitting on some great topics because we just had a committee on February 6th with statewide representation to talk specifically about combined and merged teams. One of my very first meetings in the summer of 2012 as the executive director was I was directed as the new director to go ahead and find a way to address combined teams and encourage more combined teams to increase participation, like you were just saying. So what we did is we created a graduated scale that if two teams are merging together, the larger of the two teams would take 100% of their enrollment, and the smaller of the two teams merging would take a percentage of their enrollment. And then what that would do is if two teams were merging, then the larger school would be more apt or more willing to accept those 3 or 4 or 5 kids that were coming from the smaller school, because it wasn't going to push them necessarily into a higher classification. So we've seen the graduated scale work, maybe to a unintended consequence level, because now we've seen so many mergers that there's talk about how can we make sure that 3 or 4 Class D schools aren't merging and remaining a Class D, because the graduated scale is doing too good of a job now. So that's something that's being discussed by this combined and merged team committee that we met with on February 6th. the outcome of that meeting was myself and a couple of our staff members are going to sit down and talk about some potential options to bring back to this committee for consideration and potential implementation, not next school year because we're too far along already, but potentially looking at some changes to merge and combine teams for the 24-25 school year.
Well, I can tell you, Steve, there was a point in my life where I thought maybe I'll go work for the State Public High School Athletic Association. And a friend of mine named Joe Augustinelli ended up taking that job. And I'm glad he did. And it worked out well for everybody involved. But I couldn't do it. This is high level stuff. This is really interesting. You got smart people doing great work with the Athletic Association. And I have one last question, because it's been 11 years you've been here. And I don't know why I'm thinking New Mexico, but how in the heck did you end up in upstate New York, Dr.
Yeah,
Zayas? Where are you from and how'd you get here?
Right place at the right time. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, taught and coached in San Antonio and the Austin area. Went from there to go to graduate school in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Wanted to get a master's degree in sports administration. Showed up in Albuquerque, looking to potentially continue my teaching career, and noticed in the classified ads of the Albuquerque Journal that the New Mexico Activities Association was hiring for a communications coordinator. So I applied for that job, and right place at the right time, got my foot in the door with the New Mexico Activities Association, spent a decade there. And then in the spring of 2012, I was made aware that the executive director job in New York was open. And I told my wife, I said, don't worry, we're not moving to New York. I said, I think it'd just be a great opportunity to apply for the job of this level. I said, these jobs are political. Don't worry about it. I don't have any contacts in upstate New York. I don't know the name of one school. So don't worry, we're not moving to New York, but I'd like to apply. And I had her blessing and support. So I went ahead and applied. And I guess I did too good of a job at the interview, and ultimately became the executive director back in 2012. At the time, I was the youngest executive director in the country out of the 51 High School Athletic Association. When they called to tell me that I was their selection, I hung up the phone and I told my wife, we were actually at dinner. I said, we got the job. And she said, oh, that's great. I said, the problem is I don't know the name of one school that I'm going to be working on behalf of. So it's been a wild and really interesting and absolutely rewarding experience for the last 11 years. I couldn't dream of doing anything else, but this certainly is a dream job for me. And I love all the chaos and all the craziness that goes along with it. But I also love finding ways to give kids the chance to participate and benefit from those participation opportunities.
Well, you've raised your family there in the Albany area too. So that's awesome. And you've dealt with the winners. So congrats on that. I mean, I remember when you got the job, I was like, where is he from? What's he doing up here? Like, I was like skeptical, like, who is this guy?
I questioned that on a few occasions as well, especially when the snow came, and I had never operated a snowblower in my life. So I mean, I had no clue what I was doing, but we're definitely New Yorkers through and through now. Absolutely love it. And I couldn't imagine raising my daughters anywhere else except for upstate New York. It's a great place.
Well, no disrespect to the old guard, but you've taken things to the next level, and it needed to be in the world. It was going to happen whether you want to get on board or not, but you were driving the bus. So congrats on what you've done with the organization.
That means a lot. Thank you.
No, thank you, Dr. Zay. Maybe, is there one takeaway from your 11 years, that one kind of unexpected gem, one thing that you learned about yourself that you didn't expect to, that, you know, has maybe propelled you forward?
Well, I just think the number of decisions that need to be made every single day, and realizing that with every decision, I mean, we work on behalf of almost 600,000 kids in almost 800 schools, and just coming to the realization that with any decision we as an association make, or I as the executive director, it's not going to be well received by 100% of the people that it's impacting. And I think just coming to that realization that ultimately people aren't always going to be happy. And I think Thomas Jefferson said that if you're always making everyone happy, you probably haven't really made very many decisions that are noteworthy enough. And I think that's the reality of just realizing that we have to continue to make tough decisions in order to move the association in a positive direction, and just never losing focus of the fact that kids are the focus of what we do and why we do it, and continuing to try to just find ways to positively impact change.
You know, you can tell he's a former communications coordinator because he's a pretty good soundbite, this guy too, Steve. Dr. Zayas, thanks for your time. Thanks for your commitment to New York State high school sports. And we appreciate it. We certainly do.
Thank you for what you guys do. We appreciate the promotion and highlighting of kids. And I think we're all in it together. And that's what means the most is just, like I said, continuing to find ways to help kids be successful.
For Dr. Robert Zayas and my co-host Steve Bradley, I'm Jeff DeVeronica. Thanks for watching us right here on the Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show.